Alright, part 7 of the video series. This is going to be the actual engine removal video. You can see I've already got the chains under a little bit of pressure just to make sure my engine hoist is good to go. No surprises basically is what I try to do ahead of time. Just put a little bit of tension. You'll hear, let me put a few clicks on it. Just to make sure, everything is good. And it is. We're just about ready. The only thing that we need to do, which I left off on the other video, is our fuel line right here. Would have been pretty easy to remember because it's right there in front of you. May need to get it replaced afterwards. You can see we got cracks in here, so that's definitely something concerning. The actual reason I think for those cracks, number one, we're using the new ethanol fuel in these, and not like E85 per se, but it does have like 15% ethanol, and it tends to crack these old rubber hoses. So if this is original, not surprised. Okay, so that's disconnected, and that's it. So let's give this thing a few cranks, see how it fares. Alright, so you're wondering, how far do I jack this thing up before we have to do something different? And the trick is right here, where these exhaust manifolds are. You see there's a gap. Your boat will differ, but you want to pay attention to both sides. You physically cannot remove the boat, you physically cannot remove the engine until you're able to clear these exhaust manifolds. So the trick is, what we're going to do is we're going to leave about 1 inch. We got about 2 right there. You'll see the motor is starting to turn. It's a good sign. You'll see down here we're completely off. And remember I told you earlier how if you remove the washer back there, how it's able to just kind of float around. You notice why the other side isn't doing the same thing? Did you hear that? That was a washer flying off on the other side. So if you do happen to forget, don't worry. It will remind you that it's still on. And now you can, at this point, you'll have a little bit more motion. Okay, so this is a good time to take a look at your engine hoist and make sure that is still good. Let's see here. Yeah. No issues. You also want to pay attention and make sure you're not hearing any kind of cracks or anything too, because if you do, it'd probably be good to address that ahead of time. Okay, now you'll see here, if you get it set up right, it does have a little bit of motion, but it actually ends up leaning right there. So what we're going to do from here is I'm actually going to take and back up the boat while it's suspended to the hoist here. And before you do that, one of the tricks is you want to make sure as you're backing up, you don't back up too far. So in your mind here, you're going to be backing up, what is that, about 8 inches, which is good, because you'll hit this and you'll put the full force of the engine on top of the pan, or the floor, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to put the pan on the floor. It's no good. So we're just going to back it up, a few inches right there, and what that'll do is allow you to clear these manifolds. All right. So let's go ahead and back the boat up a little bit so we can finish removing this. Okay. So as you can see, just went in the truck and backed it up a little bit. We now have cleared the transom plate. Notice all of our connections, no issues. Guess what we missed? This is why you always got to be careful. This is the trim sender connector. If you rip this thing out, it's about $100. You can redo the wire connector if you needed, but if you forget about it and it rips it out from the transom plate can be kind of pricey. So we'll go ahead and get this disconnected. And okay, there we go. So that stays there. And just do a quick visual behind. Don't see anything. And you notice our exhaust manifolds on both sides are good. So we're gonna crank this up. Periodically just readdress your hoist and make sure it's holding pretty good. You're gonna end up having to lift this motor up probably about the length of the pan. So you can take a measuring tape, but it's gonna be pretty high. That's why if you notice I bought 12 footers, because we're gonna have to suspend this pretty high up. So I'm gonna spare you the time of me cranking this for a while, and I'll jump back here in just a second so you get to see the progress. Okay, about 20 or 30 clicks later, you'll notice now the motor can start to be turned. And for some reason, this happened with the connector on the other side. These little connectors like to get stuck in there. I had one on the other side, it's kind of crazy. So you can actually turn the motor sideways. And you may be able to, depending on what type of hoist you have. If your ratchet doesn't have the capability of that turning, you may not be able to do this, but it's kind of an important feature to have, because otherwise you won't be able to clear the manifold there. Alright, so let's give it a few more clicks. Alright. You can see we are just about there. We'll double check our hoses on the other side. Make sure those are okay. Not caught on anything. Yeah, good. And then we'll see if we can turn this thing sideways. Yep, no problem. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a few more clicks. You always want to have an exit strategy when you're lifting this, because if something happens and your hoist fails, you want to make sure your body parts are not underneath this. This motor falls on you, you're going to be hurting pretty bad. So one of the things that I'm doing as I'm doing this, I'm actually staying a good foot or so away, just in case. Alright, let's take a look here. Alright, engine coupler. Good. No issues there. Let's see how high we are. Take a look at this. Yeah. Pretty good progress, huh? Definitely going to need some degreaser on this one. Alright, so I'm going to hit pause here. I'm going to crank this some more, and you'll get to see where I'm at here in just a sec. Okay, so what do you think? We are straight up in the air at this point. Completely suspended. And one thing to note is look how much higher we can go. Maybe 4 inches. So this is pretty well maxed out. You'll see here, how high do you need to go? Just enough for it to clear back there. And you can kind of see with the camera, we've done just that. Quick shot of the setup. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and pull the boat forward, and I'll need to get a 6-foot ladder to lower this back down. So far, the engine hoist up here and the ratchet, yeah, been pretty good, no issues. Okay, so there you go. Pulled the entire boat forward, and now we're suspended. I brought the trusty little 6-foot ladder, and we're just going to go ahead and crank this thing down now. Now, one thing to note as I'm bringing this down is safety again. You want to make sure if it falls, it's not going to land on you. Same thing with the 6x6s. Now, there's a good chance that they could come flying down, but you just don't want to be under it. If anything, definitely don't want to be under it. All right, so we are making good progress. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you, once I get this thing down, what are we going to connect it to? How are we going to connect it? Because it gets kind of tricky. So I'll show you that here in just a second as well. But this is what a quick little walk around yields here. All right, so let's get that engine stand now. Okay, so you notice I laid down a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood. This gives me the ability to kind of roll this around a little bit if needed. Got the motor suspended still. Now, if you're just doing a transom rebuild, all you really need to do is just leave this suspended. However, there's been a few times when this boat has been running, it's so darn quiet that I accidentally started it a few times with it running. And what that does is it chews up the gears on your flex plate. So as a precautionary measure, I'm going to go ahead and take off these bolts here. All right. Okay, so first thing we're going to do to get the engine stand in place is we're going to take out 1, 2, there's one under here, 3, there's 4, 5/8 bolts. So go ahead and tackle those first, and then we'll move on to the other bolts. Okay. Next thing is we're going to go ahead and remove these bolts. Now these are just nuts that come off here, but this is a 9/16, and this one where all the grounds are, that's going to be 9/16 as well. You'll need a deep socket to get those two off. All right, that one's off. Now let's go after this side over here. Okay, make a mental note where all your grounds were. All right, and now you can pull off that one right there. Okay, and that is just about it right there. Okay, so if you notice, it's still not coming off. Well, that's because you got to pull off the starter. So those two 5/8 bolts that we talked about on the back that hold the starter, there's one and there is two. Once you have that, you'll be able to remove the starter. All right, so go ahead and take that one off and this one down here. All right, I say 5/8, but they're actually 9/16. So anyway, give it a little wiggle there, and ta-da, it should come out. Now you don't want to just leave it hanging, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and zip tie this. Okay, that's just temporary right now because we're going to end up degreasing this motor, and I prefer to not get it all over the starter if I can. All right, so now that we got that done, we got the starter out. Now those 3/8 bolts for the inspection plate, those got to come out here. Already loosened them up ahead of time. No, they're not normally this loose. All right, and that one. All right, and let's see if it'll pop out. Make sure you don't lose your bolts there, because those little buggers definitely can walk away. So it's definitely loose in that case. All right, so next thing is you're going to want to get a rubber mallet. I'll show you why. Okay, so just take your rubber mallet and very carefully give a little tap. Same thing on this side. And you see it start to separate a little bit there. Also want to get this little washer that's hiding right there. Let's see if it'll loosen up here. Okay, lift up a little bit right there, and I bet with a little bit of patience, just like that, comes off. Oh, there's another washer down there that just came off. That's gonna be it. Just gotta get it around this cord. Ta-da! And there's your flywheel. Pretty standard. And like I said, what we're looking for are any kind of teeth that are damaged. Now, something that's a little deceiving here is you won't be able to see if there's any teeth damaged because we're on the wrong side. Alright. The way you tell, and you've probably seen some of my other videos, you have to look for the damage on that side. We'll get into that a little bit more. Next thing we got to do is we got to loosen these bolts down here. There's 2, 4, another side, another 2. Now something to note here on these 9/16 bolts, when you go to try to loosen them, the motor's going to turn. So I'm going to show you a quick trick. Take a crescent wrench and you put it right there. And then what you can do is you hold back with one hand on your crescent wrench, and then on your other wrench you can loosen it. And that's the trick. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and loosen up these 6 9/16 bolts, and we'll get this engine coupler off. Another little trick, if you don't have a box wrench to use around this, you won't have enough room with your standard type of socket. But if you get one of the smaller ones with a 9/16 on it, it's one of the 1/4 inch ones. You see it's a smaller one. You can actually get in there and loosen it. Otherwise, if you don't have a box wrench and you try to do it with a standard wrench, you're probably going to run into an issue with slipping it. Now these are on with quite a bit of torque. So I actually have a cheater pipe here to stick on there. Alright. And then, like I said, hold back up with your crescent wrench like that, and you'll notice it comes right off. Pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this process total of 6 times and get all those nuts off of there. Okay, and all the bolts are out. Give it a little tap. It comes out. And as you can imagine, next up, that's probably going to be on there pretty tight too. So same thing. Just take your rubber mallet, give it a few taps. If you have some WD-40, probably wouldn't hurt to spray it on there. In fact, I'll probably go do that now. Awesome. Alright, and we'll just wiggle this out. Ta-da! Alright. And we'll get this little plate out of here too. she's really stuck on this side. Probably good and rusted. Alright, so we're going to get a little WD-40 right there. Okay, and that is that. Get you a good time to check your rear main seal too. And you can kind of see we got a little bit of leak here. And check this out too. I can get it to focus here. You got a little bit of leak. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not very happy with that. That could be. I'm gonna see. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do with this, and we'll catch it here when I go over the overall engine maintenance video. Is I may do a rear main seal, and I may need to do an oil pan seal as well. The way I'll decide is I'm gonna check what the torque is on these bolts, and if they're within spec, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, if you're looking there does look like, I mean, it's the lowest point, so it could be a rear main seal. In all fairness, it's probably easier to just do one. They're only about $8 to do it. I'll show you how we do that. Yeah, probably a good time. And more than likely, we may end up doing another gasket. Yeah, because you got a little bit of seeping right there. All right, anyway, let me go ahead and show you now the process of getting it attached to the engine stand. Okay, so in light of the issues that I found with the oil pan, I'm actually not going to attach the engine stand, but say you are, what you'll use is 5/8, or sorry, I believe these are 9/16 or 5/8, I'll have to double check, but you want grade 5 of these bolts to go through here, because the last thing you want to do is get this far along in your project and use the cheap bolts. Grade 8 would be good too, but definitely use a minimum of grade 5 or better. But yeah, you'll take 4 of them, and you'll need to get it to focus here. Put 2 on the top, and then you'll need to twist this around. Put 1 on this side, 1 on this side. Now that we've looked at the how to put it on the engine stand, we'll go take a quick look at the flex plate, or as I called it, the flywheel, and see if that is damaged at all. Okay, so this is the part we're referring to here. Now you can see, if I can get it to focus, that there are, I believe on this model, I think it's 153 teeth on it. And what you want to do is inspect them all the way around and make sure none of them are gummed up or basically sanded down. What it looks like. When that starter comes through, if it's already running and this thing's spinning, it'll possibly even knock a few teeth off on your flywheel here. If you're curious on how to diagnose this a little bit further in detail, I do have a video about it. So just let me know if you're curious in the comments section, and I will link you to that video. But flywheel's good. This is rusted. I'm going to apply some anti-rust or rust remover. The plate is. And then the engine coupler. No sign of slippage on that, and it is also in good condition. Now, one more trick here. If you are going to put yours on an engine stand and just say your rear main seal is good and you're not in my situation, the way you get these studs out, because you have to remove these studs and they are a pain to get out, is you double up those nuts that we just took off, and you tighten them, tighten these together, and then you use the, I believe it's the outside, no, it's the inside right here. You just get a wrench and you turn that inside nut, and you'll be able to break these out. So that's how you do it. You use 2 nuts to get them out. Just a quick little tip, because you do have to get these studs out to put it on the engine stand, otherwise it hits here. So As I said, I'm going to leave mine on this hoist. All right, so that is pretty much it for the engine removal. We will do some more work on this. I'm going to go ahead and bag up all these miscellaneous bolts that I have and nuts and get them all labeled. It just makes it easier during the reassembly process. I know this video was super long. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. Like the video. We'll continue on with, I believe, part 8 here next. As always, have a good one. Take it easy.